Cindric with the lead. Hamlin is second. Bell is third. 3-car length to Riley Herbst.
Riley Herbst in position number 4. That's where the nose-to-nose and side-by-side racing begins. Herbst to the inside. Now one car darts out of line. Looking for the race lead. Here comes Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin with drafting help from Christopher Bell goes to the lead here in the Daytona 500. Hamlin now crosses over. Goes back down to the bottom of the racetrack and screams back to the front straightaway.
Denny Hamlin has brought a teammate along for the ride as well. Here's Christopher Bell. Have not heard anything out of Christopher Bell all day long, but right now he's poised in position and ready to pounce with 6 laps to go.
Into turn number 1 they go, and it's side by side. Hamlin on the inside. Bell trying to creep up and get even on the outside. Wow, he nearly lost it. Rockets up the bank and comes right back after Hamlin.
Christopher Bell goes way up the racetrack, hangs on to a challenge for the race lead, side by side with Denny Hamlin up the back straightaway. Bell inches out front in the 3.
Bell and Hamlin neck and neck for the race lead. In row 2, you've got Cole Custer and Austin Cindric. They've got nowhere to go because Bell and Hamlin have both lanes blocked.
5 laps to go in the Daytona 500. Side by side at the front of the field. Side by side all the way through the lead track. Denny Hamlin to the inside. Christopher Bell goes topside. Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas at the front.
We barely mentioned Cole Custer tonight, but all of a sudden he is right there on the back bumper of the Christopher Bell machine, riding strong in the number 4 spot. Hamlin by a nose off turn 2.
Cole Custer, second car, topside. Austin Cindric to his inside. That's row 2 behind the Toyotas of Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell. And now Bell gets turned. Front of the field. Several cars go flying through the air. Ryan Preece is upside down into the outside wall. A huge hit for Ryan Preece as 7, 8, 9 other cars become involved. Chase Elliott goes for a spin. Justin Allgaier, several others now spin to the inside, but a huge hit. And Ryan Preece, for the second time in 3 years, goes flying through the air here in turn 3, landing on his roof, slamming the outside wall on the banking of turn 3 while upside down here at this end of the racetrack.
And he comes back on all 4 wheels. What an intense crash at Daytona International Speedway. 4 laps to go in the Daytona 500 when the pack came flying apart in front of Kyle Rickey.
Started right at the front of the field. The 2 Toyotas were running side by side, and it looked like a bump draft gone bad in the outside lane. Turned Christopher Bell into the outside wall just as the cars were about to arc into turn number 3, and it was on from there. Cars went spinning to the inside and outside. Somebody clipped Ryan Preece as he just hit another car, and it was just at the wrong angle that sent that car into the air. It took a while for that car to invert, but boy, once the air got underneath it, the car flew through the air upside down and into the outside wall, fortunately coming to rest on all 4 wheels at the bottom of the banking.
We can see through the binoculars Ryan Preece got out of the race car under his own power and walked to the ambulance for the mandatory trip to the infield care center. We are headed to overtime in the Daytona 500. I may have spoken a bit prematurely. They have stopped the cars on the Daytona Super Stretch just off of turn number 2, still with 4 laps to go in the race while cleanup continues. Not necessarily going to overtime just yet. Denny Hamlin is the race leader from Daytona International Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
This is Chase Briscoe. You're tuned in to the excitement of the NASCAR Cup Series on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Now, back to the race.
Under the red flag here in the Daytona 500 for the 3rd time today. This one for the big crash at the exit of the Daytona Superstretch heading into turn 3. The other 2 red flags were for rain when the sun, well, I say sun, when it was daylight.
Yes. Yeah, we had 2 red flags for rain earlier this afternoon. We've had some great racing, and obviously we've just had a very intense crash off the end of the Daytona Superstretch. Ryan Preece getting up in the air. Others were collected as well. And this is part of it, Alex. We get down to the end of the 500. Everybody rooting and gouging, trying to grab every inch of real estate they can possibly find. And what we've seen tonight is when you get cars in that close proximity, they begin bouncing off each other. They become stuck, and then all of a sudden, it breaks loose, and that's exactly what we just saw with Ryan Preece going up and over for the second time in his Cup career here at Daytona.
Well, you know, the one thing that's in common, it seems like it happens all the time. It's always a bump draft that goes bad. And it's not like you get hit in a quarter panel or hit in the side. It seems like when we get late in these races and we're bump drafting so hard, trying to get some positions going, trying to make it happen, this stuff happens. But one thing I will tell you guys, I don't know if I've ever seen a car go up in the air, look like an airplane getting ready to take off, as Ryan Preece did. That was a crazy-looking deal.
Yeah, he did, again, get out of the race car under his own power. As a matter of fact, he dropped the window net as soon as the car stopped moving, which is the sign to all the safety teams and the NASCAR officials that he is okay as a driver. So that is the best news out of all for Ryan Preece. But don't you know, he's probably tired of going upside down at the end of the backstretch at Daytona.
I would definitely agree with that. I'm sure he would concur as well. Let's go to the Advent Healthcare Center.
And Kyle Busch has just come out of the care center. Unfortunate, familiar story. Strong car early into your night. What happened, Kyle?
Couldn't tell you. I ain't seen it.
All right, but you okay?
Yeah.
All right. Short answers from Kyle Busch. Hadn't seen the replay yet, but he's out of the care center and out of the Daytona 500.
Understandably frustrated after Kyle Busch had a couple of pit miscues early in the race, got him in the back, got him swept up in a crash. They were able to put Humpty Dumpty back together and get him out there and contend at the front of the field before he gets swept up in another crash and ultimately ends his night.
This was his 20th attempt to win the Daytona 500, and obviously it did not come up the way he wanted it to.
That is frustrating. I've tried to win the 500 for so many years and couldn't get it done. But I'll tell you what, he's had a great car tonight. That's the one thing I can say. He was up front a ton. When Richard Childress goes back home and talks to his guys, he can honestly say we had some fast hot rods here, guys. We just didn't get it done with the 8 car, but they had fast cars.
Rusty, you mentioned yourself not being able to win the Daytona 500. The list of some of the greatest to ever do this, to never win the biggest race in the sport, the Daytona 500, 10 NASCAR Hall of Famers have never won the Daytona 500, including Terry Labonte, Mark Martin, Ricky Rudd, who we just enshrined last weekend, Bobby Labonte, Rusty, of course, Tony Stewart's never won it, Carl Edwards, Bobby Isaac, Ned Jarrett, Alan Kowicki, Hall of Famer, never won the Daytona 500.
And we've got drivers in this race. Look at Martin Truex Jr. Tonight was his 21st 500. Tonight was Kyle Busch's 20th 500. This race, why, Rusty, is it so hard to win this race?
It's because you got to rely on other people, not your team, other drivers. You can go to Charlotte, Michigan. You can have the fastest car. You can have a car that handles really, really good. It sticks good. You got fast pit stops. Well, you can do the same thing here, but if you don't have somebody else helping you draft, helping you work with you to get your car to the front, that's a limiting factor. You can have the best of everything, but it's not enough. You need somebody else, and a lot of times somebody else is your competitor.
That's part of it, and then also getting into wrecks because of somebody else. That's got to be frustrating because you yourself have taken some big tumbles at these tracks.
Well, this happening here is no secret. I mean, this is what happened. It gets so intense at the very end. This is the biggest race of the year. The Daytona 500 is the one everybody wants to win, so they're driving harder than they've ever driven in their life. And you can almost see this coming looking down at the competitors. But, hey, that's Daytona. We love Daytona. It's our biggest race of the year.
And right now, the red flag has been withdrawn. The yellow flag has been put back out. Cleanup is just about buttoned up in front of you, Kyle Rickey.
It is. All the safety trucks have been back to the infield. Did some work onto the racetrack. It looked like there might have been a piece of debris or maybe a divot that the officials worked on for a brief moment in turn 3 where that car landed on the racetrack roof first. But they made fixes to the racetrack in quick order and have since made their way back to the infield.
Now, there are some drivers and teams that are clearly concerned about Sunoco fuel in the tank because they are beginning Tim Catalfamo to run down towards the apron of the racetrack here under the caution flag.
Yeah, there are 2 drivers that I can see entering turn number 4 that are on that apron, Alex Hayden. One of them is Bubba Wallace. The other one is Kyle Larson. Those are the only 2 for now. Bubba Wallace has some significant damage to his Toyota Camry. He was one of the drivers that was involved in that crash. Heavy right side damage along with the left side of his Toyota Camry. Kyle Larson also with some damage as well.